Christianity is not a religion about God, it's a relationship with God. In my junior theology class today, we started Unit 3. This unit is very simply titled Sin and Grace, but really the focus of this unit is Jesus Christ and the role that Jesus plays in helping us to become our authentic self. In class today, I gave students just a couple objectives, and the first objective was a review. It's usually my standard procedure to do a review of everything that we've studied so far that year, so that what we're doing next, it transitions well into that. So for the bulk of the class, actually, we just do a discussion-based, a little bit of, Socratic, seminar where I just ask students to respond to a question, and sometimes I guide them and lead them to specific answers. But I gave them 5 specific questions, and I had them kind of record the responses to it because we're just summarizing everything. The first question that we asked is, who are we? This is an ontological question, and we use that terminology in class. And on a very simple basis, I have the students make a quick list of things that are characteristic of the human person. The first, and this is from a theological or Catholic anthropological perspective, we are made in the image and likeness of God. Also, humans are made with the ability to use reason and to have free will. Both of these things are consistent with the image and likeness of God, as God freely chooses to create us. God has free will, and God is reason. God has purpose in that sense. We also talk about the necessity that we seem to have as humans, that we're made to be in relationship with self, other, nature, and God, SONG. And this is the concept that I use in my classes often to kind of like preface a discussion of what sin is. Ultimately, and this gets into the third or fourth question that I ask, and we get into this discussion early on today. Ultimately, any kind of disruption of relationship between self, other, nature, or God can be classified as sin to varying degrees, of course. But anytime that we aren't in right relationship, or anytime that we use our free will irrationally and to disrupt, or the result of it is a disruption of relationship, then that is, by definition, sin. We talk about what is our goal. Our goal, of course, our teleology, our telos, is beatitude. Characteristic with beatitude is attainment of the authentic self. It is right relationship with self, other, nature, and God. It is agapic love, as opposed to just eros or storge or philos. It is it's beatitude, as opposed to just material happiness or eudaimonia. The ultimate goal, the telos of the human person, is relationship with God, so that we can know our authentic self, so that we can experience authentic love within the context of relationship with self, other, nature, and God. And of course, the result of all of that is beatitude. So the third question that we asked in this discussion was, what is preventing us from achieving our goal, our telos? And again, reaching back to the earlier conversation, it's sin. It's a fixation on material truth of things around us. I get very serious with my students, depending on who I'm working with. Some classes, it's more relationship. How do we deal with members of the opposite sex or members with whom we're in a romantic relationship? How do we look at them? And the argument is that we can't truly love someone if we are allowing our fixation on the material truth of that person to get in the way. Sin, if it is a fixation on material truth, or if it is disordered attachment, to use an Ignatian term, disordered attachment to the material reality of a thing, sin is preventing authentic relationship. The relationship becomes purely physical. It becomes at best analogical and limited to human imagination. So what's preventing us from achieving our goal? It's really our own irrational use of free will. It is using our free will to serve our appetites as much or more than we use it to serve our authentic self, our true telos. The idea with the next question, what is ethics? I just give a simple response. Ethics are moral guidelines that help form or habituate our actions, words, thoughts, etc., to the betterment or to create a situation in which relationship is better. I'll give you an example of, if we're supposed to be in relationship with creation, with nature, then we should have moral guidelines of how we treat creation. So littering, for example, is an ethical guideline. It's a moral, so that we can better respect creation. And if we're respecting creation, then creation is able to flourish the way that it does. We can actually be in a better relationship with creation. The same thing is true with self or other, that there are certain moral guidelines that we should follow in terms of how we treat ourselves and others. These moral guidelines, whether we understand them or not at first, doesn't matter. The objective is to practice these morals, practice these ethics, follow these rules, so that eventually the way that we treat other people becomes habit. As those habits progress, they turn into virtue, they become part of our personality, and all the while relationships are increasing, they're flourishing, and we're able to have better relationships with self and other. When we talk about relationship with God, though, this is where a lot of philosophy stops. They don't go into the discussion of relationship with God, but when we talk about the Ten Commandments, in the Catholic tradition, the first 3 commandments are all about God. You shall have no other God before me. Don't take the Lord's name in vain, and keep holy the Sabbath. These 3 rules, people think that they're arbitrary. People think that they're pointless. That they don't need to be followed. That the only rules that really matter are the other 7, which deal with how we treat our parents and how we treat other people. But if we want to be in relationship with God, then we need to put God first. We need to respect his name, and there's more to that. And we need to talk with God. We need to visit God. We need to worship God. All of this is to develop relationship with God. The last question that I ask the students is really already answered in there. Hold on one second. Hey. Yep. So the last question, though, is really talking about how do ethics help us achieve our ultimate goal. You got it?
Yeah.
Thank you. If we understand ethics as being transcendent in origin, or from outside of time and space, or from a divine being, as it were, for example, the Ten Commandments or some moral teachings in the Catholic Church, then we need to we can keep in mind that this is ultimately to help us become our truest, authentic self. The next topic or the next concept in class that we start talking about, and this is going to be the main theme of this unit, is what is the role of Jesus Christ? What is the role of Jesus Christ in helping us to achieve our telos, our authentic self? All throughout, human history, and all throughout philosophy, and for the first 2 units of this class, we talk about natural law. We talk about reason and logic and philosophy, and how that can guide us to a point where we are in pretty good relationship with each other, and we can achieve experiences of eudaimonia, or this, beyond material happiness. And all of that is good. All of that is really good. But our truest self is a transcendent happiness. And natural law only takes us to a certain point. It takes us to a point where human imagination and human intellect reaches its maximum, it reaches its apex. And beyond that, the only way that we can achieve a transcendent happiness is within the context of a relationship with a divine being. In Christianity, God loves us so much, he desires relationship with us so much that he comes to us through the incarnation. He comes to us through the person of Jesus Christ so we can directly encounter him. And it's in that encounter that we not just learn about love, we not just learn about all of this other stuff that we've talked about, we actually encounter it, we actually experience it. So what is the role of Jesus in all of this? Jesus is the bridge between the analogical and the anagogical. Jesus is the linchpin or the crossing of that gap. Sorry about the sneeze. So developing a relationship with Jesus, according to Christianity, becomes the utmost important thing that we can do if we want to experience true happiness. This is not taking away from the kind of happiness you can get from eudaimonia. That is good, but the Christian idea is that is always going to be wanting more. If we truly want to have an unending sense of love, an unending sense of happiness, beatitude, then we need relationship with someone who is beyond time and space. That was a long one, but that's basically where we're going right now. I refuse to be a teacher who shies away from talking about the need for Jesus Christ. I am convinced more and more every year that my students are encountering Jesus, but they don't have any way of talking about it. They don't feel free to talk about it, not in our culture, even in a Catholic school. So I want to make that part of our language. I want to make that part of the dialogue that we have in class, to openly talk about Jesus in our encounters with him. If this becomes the norm in our language, then I honestly believe our students will start understanding that their worth is not equal to a grade. It's not equal to a college that they get into. Their worth is equal to the heart of Jesus Christ that never ceases to love them.